In a really concise way, I'm going to discuss each of these instruments and why I use them. So let's start with the model samples, Elektron model samples. Okay. So this guy is a drum machine groove box, and just switched it off, silly me. It carries all my tempo information, MIDI clock. It syncs up the synthesizers so that I can do arpeggios, rhythmic grooves that tie directly in with the drum beat and the tempo that I set on here. It manages the looper, the tempo. So if I hit start, transport control. So if I hit play and I've got loops saved in the Boss RC600, then that can trigger those loops. I can pause and it will stop those loops. So that's really handy depending on what I'm actually doing. If I'm performing, if I want to start and stop sections, go from an A section to a B section, things like that, it can be really handy. Or if I just want to end a tune or start a tune that I've already coordinated. It has 6 tracks. I can load samples into it, which is really handy and useful. It has a sample control, so you can set the start and end point of each sample. You can set the speed and length and pitch/speed and the decay of each sample, so you can really tighten. So you've got a kick drum that was recorded a few milliseconds between the transient and the start of the audio file. So we've got a nice 808 style kick drum there, full pitch control, up to 16 buttons here, which you use as your sequencer and can also be used to play melodic or pitched notes. So listen to the kick drum now. Notes, fantastic. So if I hook that with the keyboard, I can play an 808 kick drum. And then you've got delay and reverb send and track chants and swings. So that's if you want to unquantize, quantize what you play in. If you want to add chances, so you've got a rhythm that goes round and round and round, and you want to add variation, you can do that by removing elements sequentially or give it a percentage of probability. There's an LFO and again, sample volume plus distortion. So what that does is that gives you level control of each sample. The loop of the Boss RC600, which is at my feet, I use it in a very specific way. Don't use it for memory banks. I don't have pre-saved songs, dedicated channels for, so typically people would run a guitar through a loop pedal, right? Maybe they'd have a vocal mic as well, and a lot of the time the output of the looper is just a mix of both levels, and I use a mixer. So what's the point in using a mixer if all your levels are just going to be mashed together? And then if you're multi-tracking things, which is something I do as well, you end up with a stereo sum of what you're looping added to the rest of the mix. And it's just not an ideal way of working, to be honest. So the fantastic, wonderful people at Roland in Boss RC600 give you the option to route 6 independent channels in or out. So that could be, I have stereo, and then mono for the grandmother, and I could use either a mic or guitar, bass, etc. in the other input, and then I have those routed in parallel out to the mixer. So when I multi-track it, the Korg stays on the Korg, Prophet on the Prophet, and this little fella here stays on his own channel. So it just makes for a better quality recording. One of the only loop machines that you can run polyrhythmic or different time signatures. So like I've got some tracks in 5/4, the looper can handle that. You have to set it up in a menu, and then I run that with the model samples, and you're able to actually run tracks with different time signatures, and it works really well. So we have the grandmother here. This is a fantastic monophonic synthesizer, and I predominantly use that as a bass synth or as a lead synth less often. So you have 2 oscillators, a series of waves you can choose from. So that'd be a triangle wave, sawtooth, square. There's also pulse width control, modulation control. You have a filter section, arpeggio section, or sequencer where you can play in notes, and a typical envelope. So you can create all kinds of crazy sounds with that. Whether it be, I use it for sort of dubsteppy stuff, or like those throaty leads, kind of roomy little bass. It has a spring reverb tank inside of it that I absolutely love. So especially when I'm doing arpeggiated stuff or leads, the spring unit inside is just, it sounds great. Listen to this. How cool is that, right? Let's go to the DSI Prophet Rev 2. Great polyphonic synthesizer. So I was previously using the Roland JU06, which is like a module unit. This is a much more comprehensive version of what that can do, I guess, if you like. It's got a ton of presets, which I kind of just cycle through because, I mean, they're great. You got everything you want on here, and if not, it's really easy to create and modulate and change the sounds. Oscillators here, so you got sawtooth, saw and triangle, triangle or pulse. This is the 8-voice version, so I can't really do any crazy. It's a great synth. It has glide, arpeggios, sequencer, clock control, 3 envelopes that you can kind of play around with. An effects matrix with some really decent effects in there, and some low frequency oscillators, so you can do all kinds of crazy modulation stuff. Great, I use that for a lot of the pads, some of the leads, and just sort of kind of stuff to bulk out the upper mid-range frequency spectrum of my tunes. The Korg, so this wonderful fella here, the main and most recent edition. The Korg SV-1 is, I believe, a limited edition version. I bought this secondhand from someone in Cambridge, same as the Prophet. Both of these are secondhand units from someone in the city, which I thought was cool. Loved the black and red keys. I know that's a very controversial point. I'm sure many people hate the black and red keys and, oh, that looks disgusting. It goes with my style. I'm kind of really into red and blue, as you can probably tell with the hair and the lights and everything else. 6 key sounds. Well, 2 types of electric piano, a clav, a piano, an organ, and then it has other, which is like synthy or strings. The organ I was surprised by. Yeah, we have some favorites or presets you can save. There's an amp modeling section, an effects section, a pre-effects section. So one is pre-effects, so that would be what we got: compressor, boost, U-vibe, vox-wah, tremolo, and vibrato. And modulation effects, we have chorus 2, phaser 1, phaser 2, flanger, and rotary. So there's quite a combination of effects you can add to your sound. There's an equalizer. I think it makes a huge difference to the sound. Quite handy to have on the fly. To look at the desk I'm using, so I'm using an Alesis Multimix Firewire, which is quite an old Alesis model. I mean, it's discontinued now. I've got 2 of them, right? And I use 3 2012 i5/i7 MacBooks. My computer tends to work quite well with Firewire equipment. It still has a Firewire 400 port in it, and from that I can hook up the mixing desk, and you can kind of daisy chain with that as well. I don't, but you can. I've never had any problems with it, whereas I've had quite a few problems with USB drivers in the past working with certain DAWs. So this is handy for me to do here, and then if I go out and do gigs, I've got another desk that's set up ready to just sort of patch into. I can multi-track on the fly if I want. So that's very convenient. The looper, which has a mixer and an EQ in it, to bring things into the mixer at a level that I want. So I'm running that through 2 DBX 266XL compressor units that are down here, and one is for the model samples, so the drums are getting compressed just enough to make sure that they sit prominently in the mix. We have the other compressor, they're both stereo compressors, is running the main output to the live stream. So I'm not multi-tracking that just goes straight to the live stream, but that's just in case of any crazy peaks. You know, if a synth just takes off, then it's not going to cause any problems or deafen anyone with headphones on. Last but not least, we have the Blackmagic Design ATEM Extreme ISO. That is an 8-channel HDMI video switcher, and with that I run all the cameras into that. I record on that, so I'm able to record individual angles. There's one camera with a busted HDMI, one of my Lumix GH4s, so I just hit record on that and clap. There's some concise information about everything I do and use. So I will be back on Saturday, the 6th of April, and I will have some tech tips and ideas, beats. We can do the Q&A. There's going to be loads of fun stuff.